Hi, I'm Scott Koblish. I am a DC comic book artist, and I am not exactly sure how I got here in this void or here with my desk, but since I am here and you're here, I'm going to teach you how to draw Batman. We're going to spend about 5 episodes doing various heroes and villains in his pantheon, and then in the 6th episode, we're going to spend a little bit of time doing a scene together where Batman and the Joker are fighting in an amusement park. I'm going to have a lot of fun doing this. I hope that you're going to have a lot of fun doing this, and together we're going to spend a little bit of time exploring Batman. One of the things that you can start out with is doing a line of action. Basically, what you want to do is you want to set up as gently as you can and with as much patience as you can, just a rough of the character that you want to do. It doesn't have to be the final of anything. You just want to sort of set up the general motion of the character and the general action of everything. You want to keep it kind of loose, you want to keep it kind of sweeping, and then what you'll do is you'll take your pencil and you will start to tighten things in. So basically what you're doing here in this set is you're making room for mistakes. You won't want to have to draw in final details at the beginning, and the reason for that is that oftentimes if you think about how you make a meal, or if you think about how you do some exercise, you never start in with the heaviest stuff first. You start in so that you can get a rhythm for it, you can get a pattern for it. The great thing about drawing in this manner is that it's a little forgiving, so that you don't have to worry about making too many mistakes. What I like to do here at this stage is to just kind of build up the figure. Here's where the head is, here's the line of action for the head, so you can see where Batman is looking. You can see just here, this is the sort of eye line sight. This is the center line that goes down the center of the face. And then you've got the torso. The torso is broken up into a number of different sections. A lot of people like to work on the rib cage kind of area first. I find that that's a pretty easy way to do it as well. I'd sort of roughen the clavicle area, and then you can take from the center line here, you follow your center line through the face, you can follow it down the neck as well, and then into the center of the clavicle, down the chest, and then you can get your abdomen lines in. All heroes have pretty well-defined abdomens. I don't, but that's okay. Basically what you want to do is just like follow the form. When I was young, I was taught it's great to think of the body and the arms as cylinders and triangles and trapezoids. It helps you get some sense of drawing around the figure. While this line here won't be visible in the final, it's important to know what the rest of the figure is doing in a three-dimensional sort of sense. Likewise with the legs, you'll have the sort of defined torso, and then you'll have some musculature that comes off of the torso. And basically what you want to do is just make sure that you're building shapes first. Once you have the general shape of the body down, then you can start to refine in here the features. I can swoop in the cape a little bit. Batman's cape is really fascinating because it's got these points and then almost elliptical kind of shape. So it's like there's a point and then there's a fun sort of bounce. And I really enjoy doing that. I think that that's a lot of fun. It shows up a little bit in the cape too. The cape is a little scalloped so that you've got some chances to do like some really fun kind of things here. If you keep the fun in it, I find that that's much more important, because then people react a lot to like how excited the motion is. This pose for Batman, what I wanted to do is I wanted to have some sort of action. He's leaping, he's sort of jumping into battle. The thing that I want everyone to sort of understand and to know moving forward is that it's okay to make mistakes. It's okay not to have things in exactly the place that you want them to be the first time that you're drawing them. It's super important to give yourself a little bit of leeway so that you can make mistakes and learn from those mistakes how to correct them. You'll see that as I've drawn the belt around here, I tried to make it sort of follow what I was talking about before as far as following a pattern all the way through. So this belt is a circular kind of thing. When it's on Batman, you can see that it circles all the way around. It's not a line that we'll keep in the end, but it is the line that you want to keep in mind when you're drawing it. Batman's boots are kind of interesting. He has like kind of these, they're very thick, kind of segmented like kind of boots. They start low in the back and they move along with the calf muscle up to the front. Batman's symbol is really interesting. It is a bat, or at least a sort of a stylized bat. The way that I start it is usually I do these little 2 points, and then I'll pick a spot about halfway down the pectoral muscles, and I will draw the bat symbol up to it, the first line up to it, and then have another one that follows along almost horizontally to the pectoral muscle. And then you want to pick a point down here and know that there's one point in between. So you'll do a little scalp line and follow it like that. So right now, Batman's symbol is pretty much like this. It's changed over time. It does different things. I think that currently the way that Batman's drawn is this way. He has a little double line outside of the symbol. We'll just sort of rough that in so that when we get to the inking stage, we'll be a little tighter. But, and then of course, this is almost a solid black. And I'll take the side of the pencil and just like rough it in that way. Other black shapes on Batman are gonna be where his boots are, and we can rough in some silhouette kind of stuff there. Let's see. Now for Batman's gauntlets. He kind of used to have gloves. That used to go up a little bit to this level here, but they go up a little higher now, and they have 3 sort of almost spikes. The thing that I always wind up having trouble with is fitting all 3. And you can see what a challenge that can be. Like, so there we go. That's a little bit more even. I want to try and have all 3 of these about the same sort of size. And we're gonna work a little bit on the hand shape here. So my advice for drawing hands, you want to keep it rough at first, and you want to give yourself a little room to make mistakes. The way that I approach hands, especially from this angle, I've got a bit of a pentagram, like a 5-sided kind of thing going on here. That takes into account that down here is going to be the thumb. So if you think of it almost as a constellation of stars, you got 1, 2, 3, 4 stars here, and then a 5th star here. And then basically you want to try and work it out so that you're forming the pattern around that. So you build the fingers off of that pentagram that I've built. And the wrist here is where the other end of that pentagram is. All fingers have 3 joints. A thumb has 2. It'll be 1 here and 1 here for the thumb. In this hand, if you were to think through, you'd have another like joint here And that way you'd be able to sort of put it in here, but we won't be able to see that part. So you've got a couple things that sort of identify Batman more than others. The cowl, which is over his head, the cape, and the bat symbol. Those are things that you don't really want to lose track of. You want to make sure that those are the things that you're spending some time on, because those are the things that people recognize more often. At this point here, I am starting to shade in a little bit and give some indication of where I want the shading to be. Batman, when he's in light, has these little sort of areas of darkness on his cowl. So this is just an approximation that artists were doing to indicate that his cowl is a very dark color. It's a black shape. The same with his cape. It's a black shape. So the same with his gauntlets, gloves, and the fins and the boots. So Batman has very dark shapes, black on the wrists, on the gauntlets, on his face mask, and cowl, and bat symbol, and boots. What I like to do when I think of these lighting terms is to think in thirds. So if we go from here to here to here, you can see this is about 2/3 of the distance. It gives some indication that you've got like a little bit of form and shape to the shadow without overwhelming it. Same thing would happen over here. So if the light is coming from, let's say, this direction and shining on the boot here, you'll have a situation where this side of the boot will be left open and this will be in shadow. The cape is pretty fun. It is usually just a very large black mass. And you can see very easily in pencil the difference between the forms and the shapes. But as soon as we get to the inking process, we're going to start to lose a little bit of the shape to this. So this will all be black in here. And we're going to start losing a little bit of the form. So what I want to try and do is make sure that when we're inking it out, that some of those things are more visible. It may be that we make the fins white here on this drawing. And when we draw the black in, we draw it in like that. Now I'm using the side of the pencil for large black areas. If you are inking it yourself, you could even sort of just know in your head that this is going to be the general area, and then it'll be black. Some people put in like a little X just to remind themselves. So I'm using the side of this pencil. The pencil's gotten pretty dull, which actually gives me the benefit of being able to do some wider strokes with it. And what I'm going to do now is switch to a tighter pencil, one that I've sharpened already. And just so I can do a little bit more of the specific work, the detail work that I want to try and do next, especially in the face. I work with a number 2 pencil. I've experimented with different pencils. I think that the thing that I would encourage you to do is try different things for yourself. You'll see that I tend to use my eraser quite a bit. Your pencil comes with 2 spots. It has an eraser on it, and it has a lead on it. So it's important to be able to know how to use both. I want to try and make sure that all the little tiny details are sort of cemented up here. He has a couple different lines that are going on, almost like things are segmented on the main part of the costume, just in the current version. So these are lines that I don't think that they're too necessary because the colorist isn't going to really change the color based on these lines, but they're almost like seams. So my pants have a seam to them, and I think that the way that they have it for Batman right now is that his clothes have a seam as well. So One thing that I occasionally will do is to see if anything is off. Like I felt that eye was a little bit too high and off. Okay, that is as far as the pencils go. I leave it a little bit loose for the ink to interpret as well. All right, now we are done with the penciling phase. We're gonna switch over to inking. The thing that I like about inking is that out of all the mistakes that I've made with a pencil, at this point we're finalizing the drawing. We're sort of saying what gets to stay and what gets to go. It is permanent, but you have whiteout, you can always fix something. So, all right, let's switch to that. The tool that I am going to use today is a croquill. This is a nib that you essentially put into the inking pen. You go like that, you put the quill in, and it's a dip pen. So basically what I'm doing is I'm dipping the ink in here, or dipping the pen into the ink, and then I will be using it to get all sorts of fine details. The thing that you have to remember about inking is that you are also doing drawing. You're not exactly following everything 100%, but you are following the general shape and pattern for the whole thing. I just really enjoy ink. It's a really fun medium. There's a lot of things you can do with it. It's a lot different than pencil. Pencil is a lot more fluid, and inking is a lot more specific. So when you first start inking, you'll probably wind up where I was at. It just takes a lot of skill that you develop over time. I'm sort of spending time when I'm inking, just sort of picking and choosing the lines that I want to be there in the end. The reason the paper is meandering around is because in order for me to get the line that I'm trying to get, I have to pull the line. If I were to push, you just can't do it. If I were to push up this way, it becomes a major problem. But if you pull, it's a very quick, fast line. But it has to sort of move around as a consequence. So I'm leaving areas that are shaded in for when I get a brush. So some areas I can just easily fill in with black with this tool, but to really fill in a lot of the other areas, it would just sort of break this tool. I'll leave the area open here to fill in with black when I get a brush to do that with. I think that it's very important to be engaged with the work that you're doing. It's especially important in comics because comics are a storyteller's medium. And it's easy to lose sight of that when you're drawing the human figure or you're drawing particular things all day long. But you want to try and make sure that everything you're doing is in service of the story. As far as trying to figure out what parts to shade, I enjoy sort of moving around within the picture. It helps me to kind of get some sense that I'm seeing the picture as a whole. So sometimes I'll bounce around, I'll do one glove and then another glove, or I'll do the cape and then a glove, or feel free to move around and just enjoy the process. Just as it's okay to erase, it's okay to focus on different things when you're inking. So what we've done here is we've done a lot of the main detail work with the pen nib that I've got here. And we're gonna take the opportunity to fill in a lot of these black spaces with a brush. We've got some really great brushes here, and we're gonna just fill in the area, big black areas, and then we'll do a little bit more fine tuning. But we're getting pretty close to the end of our drawing here. So the great thing about a brush is that you have a lot more control with it than you think you do. It can be pretty daunting to start working with a brush, but the thing that you have to remember is that the brush is your friend. There's a particular kind of thing that happens when the amount of ink sort of leaves the brush. We call that a dry brush effect. And I'll try and do some here. But you can see as it starts to lose the ink, it creates this sort of almost gray that you can build. So what I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna explore that. I'm gonna, try and make it so that I can show like one of the things that you can do with a brush is this really neat like sort of effect. And I find that a little bit goes a long way. We're only gonna do a little bit of dry brush here just in the cape and leave it at that. With a brush, you can cover a much wider area in a faster amount of time. If I were to try and fill this in with a pen or a marker, it would take, I think, a little bit longer. You get different things out of pulling the ink. Like, for instance, if I were to take the brush and push it, like, you get a different kind of, like, mark than you would if you were, like, doing it, like, pulling it, So there's, brushes are a little finicky. It's worth it to use them, though. You get different things out of it. So I'm going to switch over to doing a little bit of fine detail stuff with just a small pen that I have here, and then we'll be done, I think. With this pen, I can kind of like tighten some things up, and any extra details that I want to add, I can add in this part of the process. Again, you're always free to continue correcting or, adding a few things, I find that a drawing is very rarely ever completely finished, but at some point you have to have the bravery to put it down. One thing that you can do with a pen is you can kind of get really interesting shading out of it. I try and do a little bit of cross hatching, which is taking the pen and going counter to something. So let's say I'll start drawing one line. I'll draw a feathered sort of another line at like a 45-degree angle, or just to sort of give it a little bit of shape, a little bit of sense of thinking around the image, thinking around the figure, giving something weight without obliterating the shape underneath. Because you'll see that the black, while it does help to form things out, it does tend to flatten out the form. So it helps to be able to just go in and add a little bit of texture, a little bit of form. So, and it also helps to sort of, if there's any like little details that kind of need to be fixed up, you can do it at this stage as well. I think that there's a few seams on Batman's outfit here. Okay, here we go. So that's Batman. He's a lot of fun. Next, there's going to be a color aspect to it. They're gonna come in with a focus on lighting and shading, really just make that figure pop out. I really enjoyed drawing with you today, and if you did too, you can join us for some of the other episodes of How to Draw the DC Multiverse. In addition, you can check out my book, How to Draw DC, for more of an in-depth process on how to draw Batman, superheroes, and supervillains. Until next time, I'm Scott Koblish, and I look forward to drawing with you again soon. Now, how do I get out of here? Maybe I don't.